Hello everyone, could you please confirm if you can hear me well and see my screen? Okay, thank you for your confirmation. So today we'll go through another server configuration. So before going through the topic, I would like to quickly check with you if you have any questions from previous topics, any queries that I can help you with. Did you get a chance to go through the shell scripting topics that we have covered, the loops and all? Bharat, Mike, are you guys following me? Alright. Today's topic is about Samba server configuration. Samba Samba server configuration. Okay. First of all, what is NFS server configuration? What is NFS server used for? So we have already completed NFS server configuration, right? Can you answer why we use NFS service? Right. So NFS service is used in order to access shared storage over the network. But you need to be a little more specific. So when you answer like this, so if I ask you like, okay, so we have an NFS service over the network. Can I access the shared storage from my Windows server? So is it possible to access NFS from the Windows? I'm asking in terms of access between Windows operating system and Linux operating systems. Okay, so NFS service primarily works between Linux systems. Okay, in order to have access from Windows to Linux. Okay, so we have to use another service that is called Samba service. Okay, Samba service basically helps you to access the shared folders from Windows system. So today we'll see how to uh, configure the service. So if you can see my screen, so there are some Samba related packages which are installed by default, but the actual Samba package is not installed yet. Okay, so along with the operating system, these packages seem to have installed. So what I'll do now is I will perform yum install Samba. Yes. Okay, so I have installed. This is the actual Samba package that needs to be installed in the system, right? So when we have installed the package, there will be a corresponding Samba configuration file. So smb.conf is your Samba configuration file. Okay, so you can see here smb.conf file is available. So this is the configuration file for Samba service. Okay, so before starting the configuration, so the corresponding daemon is SMBD. Okay, in fact, there are two services. So SMBD and NMBD, there are two services running on behalf of Samba. Okay, so we need to start both the services after making the changes inside the configuration file. So as the first step, what we'll do is we'll take a backup of the config file. Okay, I've taken a backup of the config file. Now we will make changes inside the configuration file. So go to a location called global. So this is where we will be making the changes. Okay, so some of the parameters that we are going to add as a part of this configuration are present in this list. Okay, so as you can see, there is something called work group. Okay, NetBIOS name. So these are some of the parameters which I am going to uh, group here in this location and add them under the global settings. Now these specifications are about the shared folder that we are going to create. Okay, we need to ensure that the work group is same across Windows and Linux, and we provide or grant some permissions. Okay, so path, writable, and readable, some of these options that I have updated. So in case you want to make a note, global. So these are the options. Okay, now save, come out. So we need to start the service. Okay, systemctl enable, it's service smbd start. LMB start. So we will quickly check the status as well. Okay, always make it a habit of cross-checking after you starting. Even if you get the prompt as successful, there is a possibility that the service is failing in the background again. Okay, so now we will create this folder mkdir. So we have provided this, right? Samba Anonymous. You remember why we use the argument called as -p? Why do we use an argument called -p along with mkdir command? Come on, anyone? What does the -p option do? To create subdirectories if they are not existing. That means if both these directories are not present, Samba as well as Anonymous, then it will create Samba and then it will create Anonymous inside that. So if you take it this way, so it says no such file or directory because Samba is not there. Now Samba as well as Anonymous has been created. Okay, so this is the folder that we want to access. Now so in our configuration, global, so we have given the name as CentOS. Okay, so this is how you need to try accessing that system. Just give me a second. Okay, the same setup in CentOS 7. The difference is we use the systemctl. The same steps just to show you. Samba anonymous. Start. Similarly, NMB. Then we enable it. Enable NMB service. Okay. So additionally, here we use the firewall command. Where the zone is equal to public and the service name is Samba. Okay, so we are adding the Samba service to the existing firewall rule. So once it is added, so we need to reload the firewall table. Okay. Let me check. There is some problem. We are supposed to be able to access. So this is the shared folder that we have created. So we'll cross check etc samba conf. I'm just changing it. Yeah, we can try that way as well. And since I've given the alias name, I'm just trying it this way. Okay, so there is a suggestion from Ramesh actually. There is also, so the way, so I've created this so here if you see, okay, I've given this NetBIOS name is Red Hat. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to access it with that name. But you can also try this format. Okay, so you can see this, right? So hostname slash Samba DAR. Ramesh, whatever you have mentioned, yes, we can also try accessing the shared folders like that. Okay, so oops. So it says Windows cannot access the shared folder. So you do not have permissions to access the shared folder. Okay, so we are able to see the shared folder across the network. We still have to make some more changes. So let's go and fix those changes now. So it says that we don't have sufficient permissions to access the shared folder. So what we do is we try to first of all check what permissions are there, and we will try to change. Okay, there are already For the existing one, 755 is already there, so I have recursively changed for everything under it. Okay, and then we have to, so by default root user is the owner, so we need to change that to someone called nobody. Okay. Okay. Now, so remember I used to mention that with respect to security, there are two different aspects. One is with respect to the firewall, another one is with respect to SE Linux. Okay, so I think so far we have not started anything about SE Linux. Now I will show you. So one such feature. Okay, so there is something called context in SE Linux. So a quick example is if you do ls hyphen capital Z, okay, so it will show you some additional contexts that are applicable for a particular file. So other than the permissions that you are aware of, so there is something called SC Linux context that is applicable. Okay, so here you can see these are three different types. One is at the user level, another one is based on the role, the third one is based on the type. Okay, unconfined underscore u, object underscore r, defined underscore t. So these three parameters which are there, they are applicable for everything in your system. That means they are applicable for every file, they are applicable for every process that is running in your system. Okay, you can also check ps hyphen ef set. Okay, so here you can see even for the processes system underscore u, system underscore r, init underscore t. So these are the contexts that is applicable. Okay, so let's not go into that, but remember that with respect to SE Linux, so there is something called context. You have to do capital, you have to pass capital Z as an argument in order to see the context. Okay, so what is the job of SE Linux? To say simply, uh, in a Linux system, everything has a context. Every file has context. Every process has context. In fact, so the way we work is, so when we want to achieve something, we try to interact with the corresponding files. We try to interact with the corresponding processes, right? So here basically, broadly, there will be two aspects. One is the source, another one is target. Okay, so the source basically tries to access the target. So in a Linux system, as long as SC Linux is enabled, okay, so the source will be able to access the target only when the source context is matching the target context. Okay, so we have to ensure that. So it is not sufficient if you simply install a service. Okay, so we have to ensure that if SC Linux is enabled, okay, then the service, along with the service, the corresponding files. Okay, so the context has to match across. Another simple example I would say is, the default location of the files. Okay, by default, whatever files that the service creates, okay, they will have the same context as the service itself. But if you want to change the default location of the files and folders, then the context would automatically change. The SE Linux present in the system will not allow you to do that, because the default files will have proper security enabled by the service at the time of installing. So if you try to move these files, there is a possibility that the security is missing. So that's why it will not allow you. So you need to change the context again, okay, provide the security, and then you have to make use of that service. So that is how SE Linux, uh, will provide security to your system. Okay, so in other words, we can say SE Linux always tries to restrict you from making changes to the default behavior of the system. Okay, so we will go through SE Linux once again. Maybe we'll allocate tomorrow session for SE Linux. So for now, just remember, by default, SE Linux always tries to block you from implementing things in your system. Okay. So in order to pass through SE Linux, we have to ensure that the context has been set, okay, properly. The context has been set properly. So for Samba, okay, chcon is used to change the context. I mentioned 3 different types of context, right? So user role and type. We will mostly stick to the type context throughout this course. So the user and role based contexts are too advanced. We don't need it even at the RHC certification level. So we stick to the type context. Okay. So for 1 or 2 services, we will be making changes to the type context. So the third one. Okay. So here I'm changing the context samba underscore share underscore t, and we are changing the context for this particular folder. Okay, now once you change the context, we'll see if we are able to access. Yes. Okay, provide necessary permissions, change the owner, change the context, then try accessing the shared folder. I'm able to create the content. Okay, see, the file got created, so the access is successful now. Is it clear? Any questions so far? So let me quickly repeat what we have done. So you understood what is Samba service used for. So simply, we're going to access the shared folders present in a Linux system from a Windows system. Okay, that's what Samba service is used for. In order to have the service working, the first step is we have installed Samba service. So yum install Samba. So once you install, sorry, okay. So once you install Samba, yum install Samba, then we are going to enable that service. So for CentOS 7 systemctl enable smb.service. Similarly, systemctl enable nmb.service. Once you enable them, uh, start the services or make the configuration changes first. So open the Samba configuration file. So vi etc samba smb.conf. So make sure that you have taken a backup of the Samba configuration file. So go to a location called global, search for that word, okay, and then make some changes over there, okay. So the changes are listed. I hope you have made note of these changes. So primarily we are going to share the uh, update the shared folder and the permissions that are applicable for that particular shared folder. So after you make these changes, create the shared folder, okay, and then try accessing the shared folder from the Windows system. So initially it will not allow you. In fact, we missed the firewall step as well. So add the service to the firewall. Okay. So systemctl firewall -cmd add it to the public zone permanently. After you add it to the public zone, try to reload the firewall rules. Okay. So after that, uh, start the service. Okay, start SMB service as well as the NMB service, and then try to access it from Windows. So still, if you have problem, then we have to change the permissions of the shared folder. Okay, so what you do is give 755 permissions across the subfolders of the service. Change the ownership, okay, to nobody, and finally change the context. So this is the command chcon space -t samba underscore share underscore t. Okay. So here, if you want to check the context, you have to pass capital Z as an argument. So when I pass it as an argument, you can see it is displaying the third context, which is type context. It has been updated to samba underscore share underscore t. So once this is done, you should be able to access the shared folder. Okay. So this is the general configuration and how to access the configuration. Now we will try to create an authentication based system. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll try to create a separate group and put some users inside that group. Okay, and then make sure that only those users are able to access the shared folders, access the shared folder. Okay, so let us create a group called Samba group. Okay, and then I'm going to add a user with the add to the Samba group. Okay. Okay, and then we have a command called Samba password. Okay, we will uh, create a new password for Samba new. The password has been set for the Samba user. Okay, now we'll create another folder called secure. Okay, and for this folder we will try to give these permissions, and then change the context. and here I'm going to copy these lines. Okay, so what we are trying to do now is we are trying to create a secured path that is accessible by post authentication only, right? So the valid users here are the users who belong to Samba group. Okay, so the browsable, and then we make them writable. So only those users from the group are allowed. Okay. Restart both the services. Okay. So there is this command called test pump. So you can run this in order to check the configurations which are present as a part of the file. Okay, you can quickly check them this way. So all the configurations which are there part of the file can be verified like this. Okay, so what was the user we have created? So as you can see, it is asking for credentials in order to open the shared folder. Okay, so this way we can create users in the system, and we can secure the folders, restrict them to specific users, and at the same time to create the folders which are not accessible by the users in the system. Okay. Uh, Again, there is some problem. Let me check. It's Sambar/secure. Something is missing. Okay, I think this is the problem. Okay, so we need to change the owner and group. Let me check this. It should be working. Not sure. Alright everyone, let me check this, the last one. The steps are, I hope you have made a note of the steps. They're pretty much the same. I will check this and I'll try to fix this. I'll tell you what was missing, why we are unable to access it even after providing the authentication. Okay. Well, I have come to know that due to there is some change in your timings and it's getting too late for you people. So so we'll try to have the session for, I mean, uh, your time zone is 9:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. It will be for 1.5 hour only. So today I'm sorry I was a bit late. So we had only 1 hour session. So we'll try to begin the session on time from tomorrow. Okay. So so this just go through this configuration, try to do it. So at least the first half of the configuration should be working for you. The second half, I'll just retest it and figure out what the problem is. I will show that to you again in tomorrow's session. Okay. Any questions from the Samba server configuration so far? So are you clear about adding the firewall rules and changing the security context. So we'll go through more of the SC Linux details again. Okay, you need not have to worry about the SC Linux part, and just remember what the commands are given with respect to the firewall. So just try this. That is the basic Samba configuration part. I will show the authentication again. Maybe you can also try. Sometimes could be some transient issue that is not allowing me, but you can try that in your system. Follow the same steps, and if it still doesn't work, I will. Meanwhile, I'll check it and show that again tomorrow. Okay. Well, so that's pretty much for today's session. See you in tomorrow's class. Okay. Have a great day. Bye.